And I think we're live here on the Bacon Bites. Just doing some quick checks right now to see if everything's coming through. It's been way too long since we last streamed. So give me a second as we just run through some things. And I say we. It's interesting. You always use the plural in these situations, but yep, it's just me so far. So anyways, hopefully everybody's doing well. I think we will chop this up into a couple of different sections. So just be aware of that as we're getting started. So. Looks like we got a couple of people out there viewing it right now. And so we'll get that. Here we go. So cool. So I'm just going to go out to the website, make sure that that link is there. Feel free to drop something down into the chat if you're here and hanging out. Do have a little background music going on, so let me know if that's too loud, too quiet. And we'll go from there. So going out there, it looks like we're live. Quiet. Cool. So that's a set, that's a go. There's the live stream. Cool. Welcome. It's been a long time. It's been a long time. A lot has happened, and let me just change this over and we'll change this up a little bit. I think this is the right one. There we go. Welcome. Excited to be back here live streaming. It's been a while. It's been something that's on my to-do list. But as you may have noticed, we're in a different location than we have before. During COVID and during everything that's happened, I had the opportunity to switch houses. And so in a larger space. And so we're not on top of each other like we were in the last place. And so that was exciting. A lot of work needed to go into the place itself. And so that was something that we spent some time doing. And so that was the summer, was a lot of that kind of stuff. As always, the kids are going down for naps right now. So you may hear them either going down or waking up. And so that's always something that we enjoy as part of the stream. So anyways, lots has happened. I think I went ahead and shared in the last video some of the thoughts that were going on just with what's coming up and what's next for me. And so I have an opportunity at my current employer to take on a larger role with the consumer product space and specifically retail. And so we'll be spending a lot of my time looking at the trends and looking at seeing what's going on in that space. So that's exciting stuff. It's something that I've wanted to do and something that I think really pairs well with Dynamics. In the Microsoft stack, there's so much that they're doing in the retail space with the e-commerce stuff. And so hopefully I'll get a chance to get into some of that in the future. So anyways, so what we're going to do today, one of the questions that have been presented to me earlier this week was just buying property. It was something that a lot of people are doing right now, whether it's either refinancing what they currently have, because the interest rates are really low right now, or whether it's looking at buying a place or a second place or whatever. So there's been a lot of interest in that during this time. And that was one of the questions that I came across and said, hey, how can I help solve that using the Power Platform? And so what we're going to do is we're going to use the example of a family member wanting to live closer to somebody. And so that's the example that we'll use. And it was that concept of, okay, we have this pricing, everybody's pricing, right? So if we want to use Seattle as the example, in Seattle, everybody wants to be downtown. They want to be near where the work is. But when you start to have family members around the area, it's something that that's what's important, right? So it may be valued differently based on where it is in relationship to Seattle or to transit and stuff like that. But if you're trying to buy a place that's relatively close to something, how do you value that, right? So it's not just the dollars amounts, but there's also the concept of how far is it away from a specific location, how far away is it from amenities. So if you wanted to go golfing, if you wanted to go on hikes, right? And so how do you value that stuff? And so that's where I started going in and thinking, could we sort of like moneyball this, right? And so could we go through with the fact and the idea of what would it take to kind of value and put values on each of those things. And so that's something that we'll be working on here. And again, I don't think we'll get through it all today. The goal is to live stream this, and then I'll edit it down so that way it's not the whole live stream, and then chop it up into the bits and pieces. And then from there, we'll continue hopefully doing this on a more regular basis. It'd be awesome to do it weekly, and we'll see how that goes. So with that, if you have any questions, thoughts, drop them into the chat. Love interacting with people as we're going through this. Hopefully everybody's doing well out there. I know there's just a lot going on the first week of November. So whether it's elections, U.S. elections, or whether it's COVID, I trust everybody's staying safe out there. So what we'll do is we'll go ahead and jump in. I wanted to sort of pencil this out in the way I was going to go through it and think about this. So this is something that's the wrong slide, and that one is too. Welcome back to streaming again. So what I was thinking is, using Microsoft Whiteboard here real quick, I wanted to just highlight and go through sort of what I was thinking as we're drawing this out, right? And so long term, there's things like Zillow, and there's other databases that you could tap into for the MLS and all that kind of stuff, right? So you could do an integration of that into your system. But what we want to do is, if we started with a so what we need to do, so we need to have the price, and then we got all sorts of variables that come through, right? So we got the price, the square feet that the property is, maybe how many bedrooms, right? So again, all things that are found on a listing already, how many bathrooms, and this is where it starts to get personal, right? So it's not just, hey, I want to look at this zip code and stuff like that. So maybe we pull out the distance from, and this one we'll say a zip code or an address, right? So we'll do it from a zip code. And so we got that. And so that would be a value, right? That's a variable that we want to bring in and weight and say, how much value do I put on this, right? So if it's just me not just me right now, but if you're a single individual and you're okay with the studio, right? So you just want 1 bedroom, 1 bath, that's it, right? You place a lower value as there's more bedrooms, right? So that may not be as important to you, unless you're looking for resale value and stuff like that. Obviously, you have to be careful of what else is around, but that would be something to consider, right? So what value do I put on the number of bedrooms, right? So if it's 3 bedrooms, that's really not what you need. But if you have a family of 4, 5, 6 plus, or you want to have family come visit you, then that comes in as well. So does it have, what's the kitchen, right? So spend a lot of time in kitchen. No matter how big the house is, you always seem to end up in the kitchen. It looks like a video signal has stopped for whatever reason. So we'll see if maybe it's the battery. See if that fixes it. Keep an eye on it. Yeah, battery is exhausted, I'd say. So we'll switch out the battery real quick on the webcam. And we have a backup one if we need it. After this, so we'll go ahead and see how that goes. Cool. Zoom in real quick. Give that a shot. Okay. So we got the value of the kitchen. We got the distance from a zip code. Some of the other things that we would look at. So like when was it upgraded, right? So so what's the upgrade status, right? So what's the current upgrade status? Is that high, low, medium? Just kind of giving a ballpark there. Trying to think, size of the yard. So maybe that's important. So I think they call that lot size in the business. And so along with lot size, we have maybe I don't want to call them variables. So we definitely want so maybe the neighborhood. So the neighborhood would be important, right? So do we like the neighborhood? Is it a good neighborhood? What value do we put on that? And then also after the neighborhood, and you can see that this is essentially becoming a long Excel file, right? And so we'll have a bunch of rows. Obviously, if we go back to the front of it, I'm actually going to drop an ID in there because we need to identify these different places in there. So add the ID. So the neighborhood, maybe the amenities. Yeah, we'll just do that. I don't know how to spell amenities, and there's not spell check on a whiteboard. Yeah, nor giant. I'm not quite finished yet, but I think to your point, I think this is a good start. And so just a couple of different variables there that we come and bring in, right? And so now we have these variables that we're going to place values on, right? So so price, and again, you can like weight these essentially is what we're doing. And again, there's a lot of this kind of stuff that goes into the actual pricing of a house. And so you think like a data scientist would have a lot of these things and they could run these through. And eventually what we want is at the output, we want a variable, right? We want, is this good or bad? And so we're going to start simple going through this. Maybe we bring in somebody that's a statistician and then be able to bring this in, but we'll start here for now. So anyways, so we got the price, the square feet, all these different variables. And then what we're going to do is we're going to weight them, right? And so I want to be able to have this essentially as an option set for each of these to say, what is the value that I want on this? So we're going to essentially put a value up here, and maybe we just keep it simple. I'm going to remove those for now. So maybe we say, what are the values going to be? So we're going to have a high, we're going to have a medium, we'll do a low, and I'm trying to think if we could break it out even lower than that, but I think that'll be a good start for there. And so what we want is an option set, and each one of these will have an option set, right? So we're going to have two variables that come in on this. We're going to have a price, and then say, okay, for this price, is that high, medium, or low for me, right? Is that maybe in a range? And so if it's within this range, that's low, or that's a high, right? So again, how important is it? So we'll do how important. And you know what I need to do is add the wand. I don't know if you guys have seen this before, but this makes it so much easier so you can select it and then you can improve it so people can actually read it. So how important is it? And then in the variables. So we're going to start there. And what I'm going to do is drop this into an Excel file just for starters. So I'll move this over to the side. And yes, eventually we'll get into the PowerPoint or the Excel, or not the Excel, but the some of the other stuff. So, okay, so we have the ID, we got the price, the square footage, number of bedrooms, baths. What else we got? Distance. Let's do minutes from location. That'll be one of the variables that we come in here, just going across. What else do we have? The kitchen. I'm going to turn this, I'm going to zoom this in, turn it into a table. So we got the kitchen. Collapse that just to make some more room. Upgrade opportunity, maybe. That could be bad or it could be good or bad depending on You want to invest, is it move-in ready? Maybe that's what we put in there. Right, so do we just move in, or is it something that there's an opportunity to upgrade it? Neighborhood, I think that's close, and entities, yeah. And then just hit F7. Do we want to check it? Yeah. Okay, cool. Okay, cool. So we have a rough outline here, right? But what all this does, right? So if we wanted to put in a property, we could track properties, and that's a first step. But what we want to do is go beyond that and say, okay, how important is the price for us, right? And so if we say value of it, right? So what's my value? So the value is medium, right? So maybe that's medium. So I'm going to give you a price range, and then if it falls within a certain deviation of it, maybe that would allow me to say yes or no. How important is square footage? Again, maybe all these become medium. Number of bedrooms, that's high, right? So I really want it to focus in. I want to make sure that my bedrooms meet a specific thing. Bathrooms, family, as long as there's one bathroom, we can figure it out. Minutes from a location, this would be something maybe that's high. So again, I really value, this is really what's driving my pursuit of the property. Kitchen, maybe that's low. I'm willing to update it. And so if it doesn't have a good kitchen or something, maybe I can go through and update that later. Is it move-in ready? So again, that's low. I don't mind spending some time later to go through and do it. And then lot size. So lot size, again, maybe that's a low. That's not super important to me. Neighborhood is medium because I do want it to be in a neighborhood I feel safe in, or that it's, and again, how you define neighborhood, right? Maybe it's safety. Maybe it's the schools in the neighborhood, right? There's a lot of different variables that could be broken out into the neighborhood concept. And that's something that, again, if you look at Zillow or some of these other Redfin sites and stuff like that, there's a lot of variables in there. And the amenities, right? So how important is that? And is it important to have specific ones? And again, you could break that out. And if you were to go in and do this, to a deeper level, and again, maybe we do that in the future, but we'll start small like this. Amenities, again, maybe that's medium. I want it to have something there. So that gives us a start. And then the next part of this, and again, this is kind of, we kind of end up with two lines, right? So again, I'm kind of starting the relational database, starting the database from an Excel file, using that as a proof of concept, because it's a quick way to do this versus some of the other, versus doing it in another format. So again, I feel like this is a quick way to do this and validate and proof of concept it. And again, we can make it easier. So if we start here in Excel, because again, eventually I want to scan this so that way I could maybe scan it or have an API come in and do all this for us. But when you start doing it at scale, you want a different item. So we got the variables here. The next thing we're going to do is, again, this is where you go crazy. So maybe this is the label, and then this is going to be the value. So what's the value going to be as we go through here? So so if it's medium, it's just 1, right? Maybe high is 3, low is 0.5 or something like that. So maybe this is 2, because that's going to be weighted twice as important. It's going to be weighted half as important as that. Low, and then medium. And again, what you'd want to do is in a database actually have these be values in the back end. And so that way, as things get run, you don't have to update these each time. So you could do some if statements and whatnot. So let's go through here. Next step. So we'll need to ID it. The other one that I think we don't have in here is maybe the address, which could be the ID itself, because that'll help define it. So, okay, so we got a start there. I think that's good. Anything else that you think I should throw in here? Maybe that I'm missing? I think that's a good start. So what we're going to do now, and again, essentially what we want to do is we'll have an ID of 1. We'll have an address of 123 Oak Street or something like that. And if we have a price that comes in and And again, this is where just doing a proof of concept here. If it's $300,000, square footage is, I don't know, 1,800 square feet. I'm just making stuff up. You may not find this in Seattle, especially on Oak Street. It's 3 bedrooms, 2 baths, sort of the classic. Minutes from location, we'll just say 45. Seems average in Seattle. Kitchen. So this is going to be like the quality of the kitchen, right? And so again, we need to convert that quality of the kitchen into something. So if we said that the quality of the kitchen was maybe the values here would be good. Maybe it's excellent, good, bad, right? Or low. Bad's fine. And so each one of these would have a corresponding value. So maybe this is, again, 3, 2, and then 1. Or, yeah, just make it easy. And so if I say that the quality of the kitchen is good. So again, this is where we're like kind of doing a user interface. And again, at the same time, we need a number because we're actually going to do a calculation on this. If it's good, it'll be 2, right? So on the user interface side, I don't want them to enter 2. I want them to enter good or excellent or bad, right? That's the user interface side that we want to come back. But again, we're kind of working backwards because we're trying to like moneyball this and say, okay, how can I like put a value on this and compare properties that have different things? Is it move-in ready? So again, there's going to be a yes, no, and needs work or something like that. And again, that's, we can keep that with like a 1 and a 0, right? So typical yes, no is 1 and a 0. Lot size, we'll do this in acres. We'll say it's a half an acre. And then medium, neighborhood. And again, maybe we do excellent, good, and bad. Just going across here. So again, 3, 2, 1. And so we'll say it's a good neighborhood. We're okay with the neighborhood. And then amenities. Maybe we do, I think this one has a lot more range to it. So we'll do lots. So we got none, which would be 0. We got a few, and we got many. And again, maybe that, I think you'd want to, maybe you do it like this. So here we go. So you got none. And again, you do an option set like this. So you got one, it's got 1 thing, it's got 2 things, it's got 3 things, it's got 4 or more, right? And again, this is where it gets a little tricky because your value of none is 0. This would be 1, 2, 3, and 4, right? And so again, what is the label? So this would be the label versus the value of that field. So I'm gonna move all of this. And again, you probably, if you're doing this in Excel and really wanted to build this out in Excel, you would put this into an option set and a variable in the back. So let's say it has 2 amenities. So you can kind of see here how we can go through here now and say, okay, let's take this, divide it by, is that 100,000? Yeah, 3. So it comes to 3. So trying to get it to a smaller number. Again, just make it easier. We'll do the same thing here. Divide it by 1,000. So now again, we're playing with smaller numbers. It's not something that...
Sorry, I didn't get that. Could you restate the question?
Man, I don't know if you guys saw me jump, but that definitely... Hello, Siri. That was fun. Hopefully for you. It was kind of fun for me. That was... Anyways. So let's take this, divide it by 60 minutes. Again, get a percentage. Again, this is just making it easier for myself to work in these type of numbers. So now what we can do is now we can multiply these, right? So now it's going to go multiply across. And now what we're going to do is the sum. And so for this property, you get a 19.05, right? And so that's going to be a number that we can then compare. So if I move this down and over, maybe we just move this to another tab. Get it out of the way. So property 1, there's that. If we come down here, say, okay, property 2, it's on 65 Elm Street, or Elm, and it's $400,000. And again, we'll leave all the numbers, the rest of the numbers the same, and just see how that one variable changed. So this, we just need to make sure that this is looking at the right cell. Nope, it's not. Oop, just the one. Everything else should be a straight number. No, it's not going to work if I do it that way. Everything else come across. Okay, no formulas coming through. So in this case, it's a higher number. And again, this is where we have to be mindful because we actually kind of want it to reverse, right? So as the number, as the price goes up, right? So is this an inverse or a positive or an inverse? And so as the price goes up, we actually want to value that less, right? And so there, maybe we don't do it as a 1. Can you do it as a -1? Yeah, so maybe we do it as a -1, right? So that actually reduces my interest in that. It's interesting because all else being equal, somehow this is still higher. And that's not exactly... Something's missing. Oh, that's what it was. All these numbers have come to the wrong one. Okay. So what we should do here is lock that in. Why is it all negative? Oh, good. Okay. So what I'm doing is hitting F4 right here. What it's doing is it's locking in. And so this will lock in C2, so it'll make sure that it's 2 all the way across, but it won't be column C. And so that's, so if you hit F4, it'll go through that. So here we go. This is a little bit better. It makes a little more sense. So as the price increases, I'm actually going to decrease that property, right? So my output is different. And so I actually don't like that property as much. But this is where we start getting into, well, maybe it's only 30 minutes away. Yeah, and again, this is where we need to maybe do a negative here. So anything less than 60 minutes, because if it's 60, it'll come through as -2. No, that's not right. Because I want it to help me out here. Where am I missing this? So if we got the medium, that's right. The cost is right. So as square footage goes up, we should be more interested in it. So if I do 2,500, that goes up. That's right. If we have 4 bedrooms, that did not update. Oh, I know why. Because this isn't a copy of that. That's good. This should go up. Okay, so we got those come through. Okay, so if you had a big enough database, would you consider using percentiles instead of absolute values? Yes, very much so. Again, this was initial proof of concept, but I think percentiles would definitely make total sense around this. And again, that'd make a lot of sense. And if you could almost think of this as a percentile as a part of it, but yeah, you're going the right direction on where you'd want to go with this. So if it's 60 minutes, it increases. That's good. If it's 30, it decreases. This looks like it's a round. Why is this? Is this a whole number? Is that what's going on? No, that's right. And if it's 15 minutes, and again, this should be a smaller number there. Okay, that's good. Yeah, so my background's not in data science, but yeah, I think doing percentiles and stuff like that. And again, like you said, with a big enough database, that's where you would head, with something like that. So this one, if we reset all these back, so if we increase the square footage, that increases. It says the house is more valuable, or more value to me. And again, would make sense that there's an actual cost associated with that. More bedrooms, that increases. Baths, okay, good. And you notice here again, I don't value another bath as much as I do another bedroom, right? So that increased by 2, whereas just adding another bath increases it by 0.5%, right? And that's where, again, as you're trying to evaluate these different things, that's where we want to go, is how do we make that, and I keep saving this by default. I'm just going to save it so that way. I don't know if you guys you've worked in Excel before. I'm sure everybody has. And you've all been on that project, and as things, you forget to save, and so it becomes an issue. Anyways, so by default, by habit, you can do that. So anyways, so again, the kitchen, that was going to be like a good, better, best. So an excellent, maybe I don't value an excellent kitchen as much, right? I'm willing to do that. And that's where, again, I think having sort of, right? So this is the output, right? So we want to see how these houses compare to each other. And so at this price and at the same distance, I don't value this as much. But if this house was, 30 minutes and reduced it by 15 minutes, then I do actually value that house a little more than if it was further away. So, and then again, I think one of the questions becomes, so 2 things. One is the question becomes, what's my comfort zone? Like, what's my rating, right? So this is an arbitrary rating that we're assigning these different properties. But what do I want to see, right? So do I want to see, if we just did $10, right? So like, what's the highest value possible, right? And so I think, to your point, Billy, what is that area that I'm willing to do, and make it a percentile and make it something real and tangible, right? Because that's without describing this number, all I know is that this is a number. Is that high? Is that low? What's my range? If my range is between 10 and 15 for everything, then the percentage between this is a lot more than just 1. And so what is that range? And so I think that's where we need to get to. The other one that I'd want to get to is, again, putting a skin over top of this to make it easier to have somebody enter in something if they wanted to do it themselves. Or to the question or the note that was in there, is just have it suck in from another database like Zillow, like something else, where it'll feed in the data, and then all of a sudden you get those numbers out, and now here in Power BI or in something like that, this is how it's going to be valued. And these are the ones you should look at. And again, seeing value where somebody else may prioritize something differently. So the minutes from location, I don't mind driving. And so maybe you do that low, and that becomes that 0.5. And again, you can kind of see how that goes. So, so I think I think the numbers work. I think it's in the right area. We have the kitchen, the move-in ready, lot size. I think that's all good. So what we're going to do now is, this is where I want to go and make this part of a relational database. And this is where we'll get into the Power BI, not Power BI. So what I'm doing is going to trials.dynamics.com. I know I did that fairly quick. I'll drop in my email. And we'll go through this process. This is not my phone number. Did I miss a digit? There we go. So if you haven't created a trial before, an instance, I wanted to go through this process just so you can see what that looks like. I'm going to put this over to the side so nobody gives me random spam calls. So that's going to send over a verification number. So I'll put that into. So go on to the next step. So it's going to check, validate that that's still open. We'll always do admin. Do a super simple one. So that'll go through and create that. Come through. I don't think I mentioned this at the start, but we'll probably just stream for an hour today. It's still middle of the day here on the West Coast, and so we'll probably do this for another 25 minutes or so, with the thought that we'll pick this up later, and I'll try to live stream it. And if I don't live stream it, I'll make sure to record it. Actually, I'll just do it either way. So this is so it's wanting me to create a new environment, right? And so what we're going to do is we're going to create it with a database. Just dropping me in here. I don't think we want any of the out of the box applications. I'm actually going to do none here because we really don't need any of the dynamics out of the box things. What we're going to do is we are going to use the Power Apps. Actually, no, I don't think we need it. Because what I want to do is start with like a generic database. This is probably going to kick back because I don't think it's going to like demo. So yeah, the Bacon Bites, property project. That should kick it off. And then next thing we're going to do is go over to make the powerapps.com. And I was signed into this browser with a different user, as you see, that keeps popping up. And that's why it's asking me. So when you sign in with the browser, it remembers you on some of these different sites. Put myself back in the corner. So here we have the default one. Here's the demo one we just created. So again, we have this demo environment that we just created. There shouldn't be much, if anything, in this environment yet. So if we look at the data and look at the tables, there isn't one. So yeah, so what we want to do is create a database. USD is fine. We're not going to include sample data. And so it's creating a common data service database. So right now, what it's done is we have the front end, and now what it's doing is creating the back end. So we have the environment, but it didn't have a database inside of it. So you can do apps and flows and stuff like that, but there's no database that's a part of it. So that's going to take it a little bit. Don't need to export it to data lakes or anything. See how long this takes. I should have started that earlier. I'm going to put that over to the side. Anything else that we want to come in and do on this? So we got the lot size, the mediums. I think these are all good. What we're going to do is we're going to create a couple of tables. This will be one table, right? So we're going to have a table of properties and values. And then we're going to have these as fields. So we're going to have a properties one. We're going to have these as fields. This is where we get into a little bit of an interesting situation. Do we add this as a field here? This obviously will be a field, so what's the value? And again, we can either black box this and put this all in a formula as we go through. The other part of this is we don't want to have to select mediums, lows, and highs and stuff like that, what the weighting of the value, right? We would want that on a separate table that comes in as we're going through things. So let's hop back over to the whiteboard real quick and go through that. So here on the whiteboard, I'm gonna come down here, give us some space. Get it up on this side. So what we want to do is we're going to have our property table with that information. Maybe we want different examples and different runs, not necessarily runs, but if we wanted to have we're going to have our values table, right? So we're going to have our values, which is the how do we value different things? Like it was that top row, right? So we want to have that. We want to have multiple of those. This could be a many to many relationship between the two. So do we want to have it? But essentially what we want to do is actually we want it to generate, if we run these values together, we want to pour them into this other table that's going to be the output, right? Right, so I want it to, first we're going to have it come over here, grab the values, and then we're going to run it. So we do want this as a relationship. There can be multiple outputs. We do want this to come through, and that's going to have, those values are going to have many different variables in there. And we're actually not going to have this line right here because we don't need a direct relationship between those two as it's going through. So we have the property, we have the output, we have the values. We want to bring those together. And that output is what we're then going to compare as we're going through things. I'm trying to think if there's anything else as we go through this Excel file. We're going to have some values and labels and stuff like that. And again, that'll be somewhere else stored, but we want to make sure that they're consistent between the two. So we'll do that. So, okay. So how fast can we build out a database? So I went ahead and created the database. You see here that there's entities that already come over. I'm not going to use any of the ones that are currently there. We're going to do a property entity. You'll notice here that, so we're creating that property table. So we're going to have the name. So maybe this is the address. And now to have it, we just put in primary field because the display name may change over time. We don't need attachments, notes, or anything like that. Again, best practice would be actually put in a description of what you're doing. But we'll do that for now. And I'm just going to put this on the side here. And so from here, I'll just go through. So we have the address title, the ID, it's going to have a unique GUID already. The price is currency, optional. Yeah, and again, if you didn't make it optional, there's a lot of different ways. Well, what happens if we don't have the price yet? What would we value this at? So, so address price, square footage. That should be a whole number. Is it a? Yeah, it's a whole number. Okay, number of bedrooms, that should be a whole number as well. That's good, that's good. Number of bathrooms, whole number. What is it? Minutes from location. This is only defining one location. If you wanted to have sort of multiple locations, that would be something to consider. Duration, I think, if I remember, it gives you a start and end date. I just want a whole number, make it easy for us for now. Do kitchen quality. This one we're actually going to do an option set, right? So we actually want it to be an option set, and good, bad. What do we do? Excellent, good, and bad. So here we're going to do an option set. We're going to do a new option set. So again, these are existing option sets here already. I'm going to do a new one, kitchen quality. We'll just go ahead and make this generic so we could reuse this. So if we just want to make it quality, come in here and do excellent, good, bad. The other thing, we should be able to view the value. So I'm going to do a value of 1. Value, actually this should be a value of 2. Oh, it's going to make me, so we're going to have to do the code somewhere else. on that one. So we're gonna have to do that one after the fact or strip it out. So it's too bad. I was hoping to do it directly in there as a value. Okay, so we got that. We got the kitchen. Next one we'll do is move in ready. So what it's doing right now is it's saving the option set we just created. And here in a minute, now that we've saved the option set, guess I need to click the back button. Yeah, we should be able to close that. Did that one not save? What did I miss? Not seeing it. Okay, let's try creating that again. Kitchen quality, again, we're just going to name it quality. I wonder if it's because I didn't renumber it back to be within that range. So we got that. Zoom in a little so everybody can see it a little bit better. Okay, so that'll save the option set. Here. Move in ready. Why is it having an issue with this one? This is no good. Click it again, it's gonna have the same issue. I wonder if it's because I haven't saved the record yet. I'm gonna duplicate this tab real quick and just go here to the option sets. We'll build it here and then reference it back in the other tab as we go through. So we'll do a new option set. Quality. It already exists, right? Because I created it. Anyways, I don't know why that. Anyways, so that's their quality is default value. We'll just put good. And again, we can change that optional. Let's save that entity. What it's going to do now is take those changes I've already made and save it back to the database and create those columns. And so we'll get to the other ones here in just a second. So we got the kitchen. That's always exciting. What's going on with that? See if that goes through. It should. So we got the entities, we got the different tables. I think we'll be able to get through those today. And then what we'll want to do is we'll work next on the integration between them and the calculation of that that other table. I think we'll use Power Automate probably for that. Because in some ways, again, we can either make that a black box and just spit out one number, or what we probably want to do is spit out all the numbers so that way you can see how they're weighted potentially as you're going through. So, okay, so we got through the kitchen. Next one we'll do is move in ready. So move in ready. This one will again be a yes, no. So we'll look to use the two option set. And again, we'll assume that it's yes, that it is move in ready for most people. That's what they tend to be looking for, is a move in ready place. We'll do lot size. This one we're going to do is a whole number, and we'll just actually make it a decimal, because again, that could be a number of different things. Where's my decimals at? We'll say it's acres, just again because we need to have that constant come through. So lot size is in acres. Do neighborhood. What's my issue here? Neighborhood. Okay. Text. Again, we'll use the quality, and again, this is kind of a weird one. You may want to call it something else and use different variables, but for now, we'll just keep it simple and use the quality concept here, and we'll just say it's good and keep that there. We got the quality of the neighborhood. We'll do the entities. And this is the one that's interesting, because if you remember, when we looked at this initially, we can either count the number of amenities, and this again is where you maybe want to do something like, well, if it's got 2 or more amenities, that's enough for me. So again, I think there is the concept of a percentile, right? So if it's within this range, like it's the same value to me, right? So if there's 1 or 2 or 5 or like whatever that is, I think that's again where you'd want to make it some configuration around that. But for ours, what we'll do is we'll do another option set. We'll see how long this option set takes to make. Again, work on the spelling there. So if we say, let's do some ranges. So there's none. We'll do 1 to 2, 3 to 4, and then 5 plus, right? So maybe that's a range. And again, you could do different ranges, and again, based on the individuals. But that just kind of breaks it down into something that's a little more manageable. Let's see if the option set saves. If not, we'll bounce. Oh, it worked that time. Nice. Default, I think that's fine. Click done, save it, make sure everything goes through. And that's it. So that's all of those ones. And so we've completed that first one, the properties one. The next one we want to do is the values. So going across the top there, how do I value something? And maybe I want to compare it. Maybe if I say I want to place a higher value on this and a lesser value on that, in that way I can start comparing based on how I value something. I can rerun that information. So on this one, I don't want to call them personal values, but client values. How about that? So here, do the name. Yeah, that's fine. I didn't change it to primary field, but can I still change it? No. Okay. Okay, so for this one, we want to, this one we need to essentially recreate what we just did, but this time what we're going to do is we're going to use the same option set in each of them. So we want to start with, and I'll just go through it again. So we have the price. So what's the price? And then we're going to use an option set, and this option set is going to be client value values. So here we're going to say high, medium, low. So we're building out this database so we can, again, have that property come in. We can have a list of properties. We're storing a values table to say, again, you could say who values it, right? So if you wanted to make a relationship to, if you wanted to make a relationship to somebody, you could do that to the individual. We got square footage. And again, this is where it starts to get a little bit quicker since we've already started this. What was it called? Client value. Client values. So I'll go through here, do beds, option set. Oh, scroll wheels quick today. Cool, so we got the client values coming through there. Got beds. What else do we need? Baths. So how many baths and what do they value those numbers of baths at? And hopefully you can see why doing it in Excel allows you to be a little quicker on this side. And again, maybe do location A. Yeah, we didn't do this on the last one, but that allows you to have multiple locations. We'll do location A for now. Just leave it at location for just to be consistent. But you could do multiple locations like we talked about earlier. Where did the client values go? There it is. Client values, medium. There we go. Minutes for location, we got that. Then we needed a kitchen. And again, this is one of those tools that I wish I had when I was looking at houses. I didn't think about it. It's one of those things you don't think about it until somebody else asks you about it, and you're like, oh, I totally could do something for that. But when you're going through it, you're so focused on something else. It takes going through the process and walking through the process is two different things. Client values, medium. Again, we're just setting some data in there. Getting close to the end, moving ready, lot size, neighborhood, and amenities. Round it out. There we go. Client values, medium. Last, we got two more. Yeah, that's right. Good. Client values, medium. Cool. Getting close. We got one more. I wonder if I probably spelled it wrong in the other one. Oops. Okay, cool. So those are all consistent, right? They all came through consistently, which will be good. So we got 2 of the 3 tables done and completed to store these. And again, I think there's tools out there. I was doing a course in Coursera around being a data scientist and data analytics and stuff like that. And you could use R, Python, some of these other things to help you with the database and going through that. But we're in this weird spot where we don't need to do it for a large amount of data, though you could do it with a large amount of data. But right now we're doing this more on an individual property. Is it A or B, right? It's not, hey, take all the properties and show me which ones I should look at. Maybe that's where we end up in this process. And get into an API, but at this point it's a little more simplistic. I'm looking at 2 properties. Which one should I go investigate first, or how does this compare to other properties I've seen as a part of it? So, and then lastly, we'll do output. Yeah, I'll just call it outputs. No need to make it any more complex. And again, this is going to be something that we'll just bring in, make it simple. Again, you could just have one number here. What I want to do is actually go through, and again, go through those same variables that we've been going through. The price, what's the price? And again, what we'll do is we'll do a decimal number for now, and that'll give us an opportunity to go up, down, and around. Square footage, decimal on that one. And this is the one that's going to be, it's going to have a couple more fields on it. Bedrooms. Again, in the other place we asked about number of bedrooms. Decimal, decimal, decimal. That's good. We did decimal for these other ones, right? Yeah, okay. Now what I was thinking is with the other ones we did like number of bedrooms for the first one, because that's what we actually want people to enter, but again it should have been maybe simplified. Got those come through. Good, good, good. So what other things have you guys been up to and working on as a part of this? What skill sets have you guys been working on and developing over COVID? Anybody else getting out running and stuff like that? Enjoy the summer this year at all? It's been a weird year for sure. I know there's a lot of weddings and stuff that got canceled. Or moved. Like, canceled is probably the bad word. A bad word. They got postponed or moved to later, to next year and stuff. Where am I at in this list? Lots of. Okay, good. I know we had family that was looking to travel abroad, and that did not happen. A couple of trips of people that were looking to travel that ultimately got canceled on, which is too bad because I know they were excited about that. Just seeing family this year has been a little tough and rough. So not because they're family, but with traveling and stuff. So and the desire to see them. So anyway, so hopefully you guys have been productive this year. I know there's been a lot of virtual trainings going on around the Power Platform. Most people are pretty much out of that, feeling tired around that, and I totally get that. I'm going to add 2 more fields here. What we're going to do is we're going to add the property. We're going to do a lookup, right? So we're going to make this a relationship. We're going to look up to that property field, property table that we created earlier. It's priority. If I could spell it, make my life so much easier. Oh, awesome. We have 2 properties. That's not going to be helpful. I'm going to go into the other tab and see. So we got property. What's the other? Manage property, dynamic property. Okay, we're going to rename this one. Let's rename the other one. I like mine. So what we're going to do here is we're going to edit this, and we should be able to go into settings. Of course. I like when they lock things out where you can do anywhere else except for there's. Okay, so we'll change ours, the Bacon Bites property. So we just changed the display name. We didn't change the actual underlying schema name. So now if we go back in here and look, I should have just made that. I wonder if we have to refresh this or if it'll be there. Okay, so that's done. Does this repull? Or do I have to like close it out and restart it? It looks like I have to close it out. Okay. Okay, new field. Property. Give me the lookup. Now I want to go down to the Bacon Bites. The Bacon Bites. I wonder if it's because I didn't publish it. So in Dynamics, yeah, it's still not there. Sometimes what you have to do is actually publish this out. So as you make changes, it won't go throughout the system until you've actually published it. Where's a publish button? Interesting. I'm surprised it's not there because it should have been there. So that allows you to make changes, and then after you've made your changes, push them out all together at one time. But I'm really surprised that that didn't go through. Here's my property. I look at the settings. Huh. Did that not save? Save entity. Okay. Yeah. Okay. I don't know. Where were we at? Outputs. So now, if we do a lookup before I type everything else back in again. Yes, it would be nice if there was a search box, but there's not currently. There's still 2 properties here. Okay, we'll just guess. So we're going with the second one. Give that a shot. Optional. So we actually want this to be required, right? So this is the relationship between this output and the property itself. So we want to bring that in. The other one we want to do is the values. So the client values. So which value set was brought in and giving us these values? So was it when I valued price as being super important, or was it something else that came through? Client values. Okay, done. Okay, so that's where we'll leave it today. Some of the things that, so right now what we have, just kind of a recap, what we've done today is we talked about the problem. The problem is we're looking at all these properties around a location. I value things differently than maybe somebody else does. So if you're, again, looking in Seattle, if people are commuting into Seattle, they very much prioritize distance to transportation, distance to highways, distance to that kind of stuff. But if I don't work in Seattle and I work somewhere else, maybe I don't need to be near the highway. And so what more important to me is the minutes for that commute to that location. Or maybe I value more the space, or the space away from people. And how do you value that, right? So on Zillow and all these other sites, you can put in what your cost and your variables, but that doesn't help you say this is the one that you should go for. This is why this one would be more valuable to you. You can compare things in a range, but it really doesn't sort of give you like, hey, you should be looking at these ones. Even though that one's a lower price, it doesn't have the things that you value as a part of the house buying process. So maybe after we build this out, we can sell this to Zillow or something like that, or they will see this and they will just go build it overnight because they could. So anyway, so we talked about that. We did a proof of concept, really quick in Excel, just saying, does this make sense? And then what type of things do we want to track? What is the high, low, medium? And then kind of doing a smell test to say, okay, if I increase the housing price, does that sort of decrease the value here, right? Because I actually want to see an inverse relationship to that versus the number of square footage. So as that goes up, I actually want to value that more. And again, this is where you may want to talk about percentiles and gradients. And so if it's less than 1,000 square feet, if it's between 1 and 15, that's what maybe you do, as opposed to saying what is the actual square footage. That would allow you to do some groupings around that and help a little more. So that maybe should be something we'd have done. So we did that, and then we spun up a trial in Dynamics or in Power Platform, Microsoft. And so we went ahead and started creating the tables. And again, we created essentially 3 simple tables. So we created the client values table. We created the table here, and then we also created this table. We actually need a total. So before we bounce, we should do that, or else I'm going to forget about it later. And so we also had this one down here as well. So I'm going to go create the values table, and we'll wrap and call it a day. But that's what we've gone through. And so the next step, what we'll do is we'll go back through. We kind of need to do 2 things. One is the user interface. And so we'll do a Power App, I think, for that. We'll do a Power App for that. And again, it should be fairly straightforward and simple. And then the other thing we'll do is a Power Automate, which is the calculation. So calculating this row, calculating this row. So we'll have somebody put this value in, hit submit. It'll go generate based on these numbers, and it'll create the output down here. So this was the output. This is the properties. And then this was the client values. Right? So, okay. So the last thing we're going to do is in the outputs, what we're going to do is do total value, and that will be a decimal And there's different ways to do this. I'm just going to leave it. You could do it as a calculated field, and what we could do is the calculation. We'll go through and collect all of that. I think that's what we'll do. We'll just do it as a calculated field. So as one of the other numbers changes, this one will automatically change. You don't have to use a flow or anything like that to do the calculation or math as you go through. So what it's doing now is it's actually saving that column before we can actually define what the calculation of the field is. So that's why it's taking a little bit longer. Oh, prevented a pop-up. Allow pop-ups. Where is total value? There it is. So there should be some simple math, and we could have done something similar. I think a calculated field has to be on the same table. No, it doesn't have to be on the same table, I don't think. See how long this takes. Hopefully it doesn't take too long. But anyways, I'm going to go ahead and end it there. If you guys have any questions, feel free to drop them down in the chat or in the comments or reach out. It's been fun getting back into this. It's been a while. Hopefully you all enjoyed it. We do have some music going on in the background. It's Streamlabs. So Streamlabs is a production of Harris Heller. And so what he's done is on Spotify, he's kind of put some music out there that's royalty free. And so we've been using that during the stream. So if you have any questions, again, reach out, contact me, check us out on the Bacon Bites, and look forward to connecting with you all soon. Talk to you later.